Morning, everybody. It is 8:11 a.m. It is August 26th. Welcome to my channel. Now, yesterday, we moved up in the beginning of the session, right? Everything moved up, and actually, the Qs became relatively stronger yesterday. Now, yesterday's volume was very low. The tempo was very low, very slow. And what I did learn later on in the day is that actually London had a bank holiday and their stock exchange was closed. So that's also going to take away from volume in the stock market. All right, this is also a week leading up into a holiday weekend of Labor Day. That also um, is going to cause, and it's summer still, right? So that also is going to cause some of these issues. Now, the day, if you look at the day, at the end of the day, it looks like, whoa, that was a nice session. That only happened at the end of the day. You could see the market's price action was real squirrely. It was kind of odd. I did have one long I was interested in. That did work. I just didn't like that it was so close to the VPOC early on. That would have been, let me look at it here. 64.70 would have been my long. It would have worked. And then I was looking actually at a short. And at the time when I was looking at that short, because the market internals really weren't strong, it was building volume, had at the highs of the day. And I was like, okay, if it keeps doing this, most likely we're going to go a little higher. But the internals never recovered. And 6480 was a key high volume node from the past. And I actually had to take one of my wife's cars to a dealership and literally set up when I left for a short, right? What I was looking at. So again, no trades for me yesterday. No trades. I just didn't like the price action as well. It was very squirrely, being that the London had a bank holiday. So brings us to now, right? We got Trump firing Fed Cook. Our markets are gapping down right now. ES is gapping down, and the Nasdaq is actually at the lows of yesterday. That is what's going on right now. So we are taking back a lot of this move from Friday. Remember, I mentioned that elephant on a stick, elephant on a toothpick, right? Uh, Now, overnights don't count of cleaning single prints. So, but in the overnight, if you had to look at it, it almost took out all of those single prints. Okay, that's what's going on, right? Now, let's get right into it. We still have Nvidia earnings. Okay, welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets, along with supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the week. I'm sorry, of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. I also use Anchor VWAPs. Market internals, my trusty under the hood indicator to tell me what the market's capable of. All right. And of course, my weekly expected um, move indicator that I have for free on my Discord. Feel free to download it. Okay. So that's everything I usually use every day. And of course, Bookmap. Bookmap's my new buddy. All right. Okay. Now, hopefully, you join me every day. Subscribe, set that alert. I'll give you the market story, the news, the economic calendar, and why markets are doing what they're doing, basically. A bunch of technical analysis. I give you the long and short trade scenarios coming up in my stream. Okay? That's the NASDAQ and the ES futures. I do the analysis for you guys. All right? Now, if you want more in depth coverage of the markets, right? You want more in depth, you're going to join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. Right there, you will have access to my free indicator, the weekly expected move. Okay, so you're just going to go there, go to my Discord. So, boom, you're in, you arrive, you go right to the weekly expected move channel. There it is. Slap it on your Thinkorswim desktop platform or your mobile. It takes 2 seconds to have it on, and you'll see what I'm talking about. All right, when it hits those expected moves. Again, 70% of the time it closes within those ranges. Okay. And of course, I give you live commentary like I did yesterday. And yesterday I've been throwing videos in there as well. And if there's not a lot to say, I don't say a lot. I'm only going to say something when it's very important. Okay? But let me be your indicator. Let me be your indicator. Okay? Now, let's get into futures and let's see what's moving our markets. Now, VIX is up 4.6%. We're at a 15.47 VIX. Gold up 0.22. Russell's flat. 10-year yield is down 0.12. The Dow's down 0.12. ES down 1.13. Nasdaq's down 0.17. 30-year bonds are being, sold. Okay, 30-year bonds are being sold. Ethereum down 0.26. Dollars down 0.28. Silver down 0.43. Bitcoin's down 1%. So Bitcoin's down to 109. Crude taking a hit this morning, down 1.74. A big reversal in crude. Big reversal. Okay, that's your futures watch list. Let's go with the Max 7 Plus. Now, AMD, okay, is up 2.31%. That's kind of pulled back a decent amount, right? But that's up this morning. Eli Lilly is up 2.11%. That took a little bit of a bath yesterday after Trump's talked about the lowering of pharma prices. Okay, moving on. Is there a little out of the laggards here? Let's look. Google down 0.29. Google's been relatively strong. Meta's down 0.3, down 0.38. Amazon down 0.42. Tesla down 0.51. Moving on to top sectors. Anything here to note? Johnson & Johnson down 0.73. Leading Qualcomm. Okay. Let's look at the more granular list here. Woo, Tilray's up 11.51%. Canada Goose up 4.41. I believe that's AstraZeneca, up 2.21. Let's look at the laggards here. Viking Therapeutics up 2.1, down 2.13. Riot, CoreWeave down 1.28. Okay. CoreWeave's been taking a bath lately. Let's move on. Let's go to sectors. Sectors semis are leading today, up 0.11. They were up more before. Who's lagging? Energy. Crude took a big bath. So they are down 0.36. Okay. Now we're going to go on to the economic calendar here. Let's do it. What's on tap for today? We have durable goods 8:30, Fed Barkin speaking 8:30, 9 a.m. S&P Case-Shiller home price, 10 a.m. consumer confidence, and an API crude at 4:30. Now this is my last day with you guys this week. I'm going on vacation, so I'll be gone through Labor Day weekend, and then I'll come back on Tuesday. All right. So I won't be with you guys tomorrow and the rest of the week with the Nvidia earnings after the close tomorrow. Okay. Nvidia had a nice run up yesterday actually, so. A little selling at the close, but that's what's going on there. Let's look at the juice. Now the juice, it's all about today. Let's see Trump cabinet meeting at noon. Okay, it's all about the Fed cook thing. Nothing more here. Let's see if there's any stock news here. I'm just going to refresh this. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Let's look at why Nvidia's and Eli Lilly are moving here. All right, let's look. Nvidia stock growth 0.4 with the chip designers business in China set to be the focus of investors when the AI darling reports earnings on Wednesday. Eli Lilly stock rose 2.2 at the pharmaceutical China announced positive results for phase 3 trial of its oral weight loss pill, paving the way for global regulatory submissions this year. AT&T stock rose 0.4 after the telecom giant agreed to purchase certain wireless spectrum license from EchoStar for about $23 billion. AMD stock rose 2.2 after Truist upgraded its computer hardware manufacturer to a buy from hold, citing improving sentiment from industry contracts around the company's data center and AI positioning. Interactive Brokers set to join the S&P 500. Wolfspeed stock rose 2%. The chipmaker surpassed quarterly revenue expectations even as the magnitude of its operating and net losses raised concerns among investors. Spotify stock rose 0.1 after the music streaming service said it will start rolling out a messaging feature this week to both free and premium subscriptions. Okay. Now, moving on to more news. Trump says he's firing Fed Cook over mortgage loan allegations. All right. Let's see here. Korean Air makes airline's biggest ever Boeing jet order amid Trump-Lee summit. Interesting. It says EU approves Gilead's new injection for preventing HIV. Now let's look at oil. Let's see here. Oil prices edged lower as traders monitor the Ukraine conflict and risk the Russian supply. Later in the day, investors will watch your stool of goods. Okay. It says Apple can no longer advertise its Apple Watch as a CO2 neutral product in Germany following a court ruling. Okay, whatever. Let's see. I'm just looking for big time news here, folks. Looks like Tesla company. The company rejected a $60 million settlement proposal in a lawsuit over a 2009 fatal crash of an autopilot-equipped Model S before a jury this month awarded $243 million verdict in the case. All right. All right. Let's move on. Now, let's look at some breadth here. Now, we took a little dive yesterday. 68%. We were up to almost 80. 68% are now over the simple, a 28-day simple moving average. Okay. So, yesterday was a odd day. It really was. Okay. Now, the one thing I want to talk about is, okay, the yield curve. All right, let's get into it. I just want to show you this graph, okay, because I've been talking about lately with you guys that when the Fed cuts happen, right, usually signifies something's wrong with our economy. Okay. And now this is a 10-year, 3-month yield curve. When it inverts, okay, and this goes under zero, you can see from the past. Just want to show you when it inverts and reverts, we have a recession. Inverts, reverts, this shaded area is a recession. Inverts, reverts, recession. Here's the COVID. It inverted and then reverted, and we went into a tiny recession with COVID. Look where we're at now. We're very deep inversion. We're right there. Okay, basically, right now, a 3-month, which will cause the inversion, is when a 3-month yield will be more than a 10-year yield, which generally, if you're going to have 10 years, you should get a higher interest yield than you should for a 3-month. We are batting around reverting here. But if the Fed cuts, this could start to uninvert. Okay, and then if the past is any indication, we just have to see. But this is something that's, you just saw the pattern here. When you revert, you usually go into a recession. I don't know. I'm just pointing it out. Okay, I'm just pointing it out. Let's see what happens. All right, let's just go right into market internals. And you can see yesterday was just a very, very weird and odd day. I did want to short, but those bodies of those candles were, you could just look at the bodies. This is 15 minute. Look at the wicks. It was just, something was off. And I was like I said, I almost got long in future. It would have worked. All right, it would have worked. And I was looking to actually short around 64.79, and that was the short. But it's okay. You know what I mean? It's all good. So let's look at internals. Now, tech was green earlier in the day. It ended up red, right? You could see market cap, the bars, were above zero for the majority of the day, and then it took a turn. Look at the equal weight. That's if all market cap sectors were just no weight, like ETF ticker RSP, That was negative all day, and that was a big diversion. Big. And when you have this big diversion like this, it's either see market cap kind of pulled the equal weight up, but then eventually equal weight got its way and pulled market cap lower, right? And you could see some big losers yesterday with staples, industrials, and healthcare. Specifically, Eli Lilly took a bloodbath yesterday with Trump saying he's going to lower prices. Okay, that's your market internals. A recap. Okay, now we're going to go right into daily charts. Okay, right into daily charts. Let's go into the daily charts here. And we just traded inside that big day. I mean, the big day, it's not hard to trade inside a big day like that. Okay, you can see that black line where we got selling. That is Friday's close. So once we reach Friday's close, the market sold off. Okay, where are we now? 642. 642, right here. Now you're in the middle. Let me see. You're in the middle. The midpoint of that day was 64.49 in futures. We are right there in futures and right there in the SPY. You're in the mid. We just took back half of that day's move already. Okay, half of that day's move. Let's look at futures. There's futures. You did wick down lower than that here. You breached the 9 EMA daily. Okay, you breached the 9 EMA daily. We're getting a little bit of a wick here. Now you're under last month's highs. You came down into the middle of last week's range. Okay, that's what's going on. I'm hoping I get some opportunity today because it's my last day trading of the month. We'll see. Now this is the Qs. Qs have a little wedge happening there. Okay, now look. What the heck? That has got to be an error. Oh, no, it's not an error. That's my black close. I should really change that color. Being that I'm gonna have to change that because it makes it look like this has two doji candles when it's not. Anyway, that's our candle from yesterday. Okay, a little bit of a doji. Hit the 20-day simple moving average actually in the daily charts yesterday. So that's flattened out, right? So your Nasdaq overall is kind of just in this area. Okay. So where is it at now? 569.72, 569.72, right about here. At the lows of yesterday. Okay, at the lows of yesterday. Remember, ES is gapping down and the Nasdaq's not. So Nasdaq's actually has had a little bit of a relative strength, not in structure but in price lately. Okay, remember it's gotten slammed recently. Okay, where is futures? Where is futures? So right here, you're getting a little wick here. And you can see that 20-day simple move is just flattened out. Right? Just flattened out. 90 EMA daily flattened out. You can tell like this is just telling you we're moving sideways. Okay, moving sideways. So, inside this day, we're going to do something eventually. The market, I would think, right, has a couple things ahead of it. Nvidia earnings after tomorrow's close. Core PCE on Friday, right? Core PCE on Friday. September 17th is FOMC. There is a CPI reading before that meeting, right? You got Labor Day coming. I'm actually glad I'm probably going on vacation because I know as this week goes on towards Friday, people are going to be going on vacation. It's a really bad it should be very low volume for the rest of the week. But we have to see. All right. Now, with that being said, I think we're ready for some hourly charts here. Okay. I think we're ready for some hourly charts. And we'll just see where we're at here. Let's look at these together. Here's your hourly charts. Let me get my trusty marker out. Not sure if Chief is with us today, but good morning if she is. Documents has been MIA. Maybe Amalio's lurking today. I'm not sure if he is or not. But the party moves on, right? So, let's see here. You can see here there's that enthusiasm. Remember the single prints. So I had to adjust the single prints. Yesterday we cleaned some single prints. We still have these left. Remember, this doesn't count. It's overnight activity. And you can clearly see we're a little bit of a downtrend in the hourlies, right? Got all this exuberance, and we just been making swing highs, right? So this has been a key area here. Remember, we're getting support in single prints. Let's see what happens. We're underneath now. This is very important. 64, let's call it 70, has become the most traded price of the month. That has just switched. So for the meantime, stay under that. You got to think bearish. Okay, underneath that level. Now obviously this is just for this immediate time, right? Not the big macro theme, because obviously you can't say we're not momentum or not with the bulls. Okay, so same thing. Let's just make this like a little downtrend. If the market comes down here and takes out these longs here, finishes those singles, I think we probably go back down to 6,400. Okay, you got a lot of overhead supply now for this market to really rip through all of this to go like this. Can it happen? Of course. Can a catalyst happen? Yes, NVIDIA earnings. Right? So we have to see. We have to see. That is your ES. Let's go NASDAQ. Let's go NASDAQ. Let's make this a little bigger. Alrighty. NASDAQ. We've had some changes as well. Your most traded price of the month is right here now. Let's see here. 232s. That is your most traded price of the month now. Remember, it's rolling, so these constantly change. All right. Your other level, it actually, let me see here. These 235s, like 235.50s, I have a high volume node there. That is probably going to become your most traded price of the week. Most likely, if we go back up there. That most likely is going to become it. I believe this 232 became the most traded. I can't see yet. I think it is. But don't worry about that. I think this will be the next one. All right. Let's just real quick do a little volume profile on this, just so let's just do it from here, just to see the volume. Yeah, 2359. That's the most volume, right, in this area. So not a surprise. Okay. So basically 23550. Stay under it. Got a little bearish bias. You got to go above it and hold it to make some move for the bulls. If, again, like I said, if you're in a little, not as a steep trend line here, if we do one of these, boop, and take out these lows, I think we do see 232s. Like I said, we have to go through all of this to make new highs. Can it be done? Sure. Can NVIDIA possibly do that? Maybe. Right? Don't know. So that's your hourly charts. All right, now we're going to move on to the more granular stuff. Get into the market profile, volume profile. Let me just switch my workspace. SWIP. But all right, let's analyze this, folks. Let's analyze it. And this is your market profile, volume profile analysis. So, I think that sugar rush has gotten a big dent put into it for cuts. I talked about this on Friday. I said I don't really trust this. This is the initial reaction. There was a lot of short covering. I'm not saying we don't go up higher. I'm just saying that that was a lot of short covering. So, all right, let's look at our profile. We have a double distribution here. Remember, this is a rolling profile. So this is your single prints. This is your new distribution. Okay, now 64.8375 in the 24-hour sessions is your most traded price of the week now. Okay. In the 63 looks like 63.87s became. I don't think that's gonna last. I think today I'm probably gonna wind up moving this back up to 64.83s, and then what's gonna happen is we're gonna have a big move on our hands, folks, because we're probably gonna be in ultimate balance in here today. Ultimate balance, if you've been watching me, means the most traded price of the last month and the last week are close or equal. And big moves happen from ultimate balance. Okay? Big moves happen from ultimate balance. So the more we queue and coil in this area, a big move is going to happen, up or to the downside. That's very important. Okay? That's very important. Now, yesterday we ended with a poor low. That's a double bottom in the 30-minute TPOs in market profile. We need to correct this. Okay, now it's kind of been corrected, I would say, but not, this is real-time trading hours, so you don't, there's certain things that even the overnight can take out these singles, right? It doesn't really count, if it only counts in the real-time trading hours. Okay, now we are slightly gapping down. All right, gap fill 64.53, gap fill 64.53. So we are slightly gapping down. Now we have a balanced profile here. The auction is complete overnight, really. Pretty much an equal sellers and buyers. All right, equal sellers and buyers. Okay, very small gap down. Now you can see there was volume here, and probably, I guess, when Trump or whatever with the Fed cook or whatever, this has caused the markets to go down. All right. Now we do have a supply zone here. We have our soon to be probably ultimate balance up here. Now that 64, 70 to 80 level is our ultimate balance, pretty much. Get over that. All right, we're probably going to make all-time highs again. If we can't, we're probably going lower. So that's a big level. Okay? That's a big level. So the first thing we're going to mark off, all right, first thing we're going to mark off is just the gap fill here. And I'm actually going to push it all the way up to include this supply zone, which includes the overnight highs. I just want to see what we do in that area. Now, the next area to contend with is a big one. That's ultimate balance, right? It's going to be your ultimate balance level. That's your 64.70s to 80s. There is no bullish bias for me if we can't find acceptance above that level. It's a monster. It is not going to be easy for the markets to jump over that wall. Okay? It's not going to be easy. Now, yesterday in my Discord, I want to give you a stat that I like to give a lot. At the time, in the real-time trading hours, we never hit overnight lows or the overnight highs. Now, 97% of the time, in the real-time trading hours from 9:30 to 4:15, okay, 97% of the time, you either hit the overnight highs or the overnight lows. There was a point in the time in the day we weren't close to either of them, and then boom, we hit the overnight lows. We sold off into the close. That's why I was like, okay, we're gonna hit one of them. It's very rare not to, and it winded up happening. Okay, it winded up happening. Now, another level that I would say we could possibly pay attention to is these single prints and overnight lows. Okay, I feel like we take that out, we probably are going to go back to where 6400 probably. Okay, and we'll just say this level's still important. The 6496 is that's pretty much a confluence high. I know there's a lot of boxes here, and we'll get into the scenarios. Okay, let's let ease. Let's split out this session. Okay, you can see the balance right here, and we're going to get into scenarios. Let's just get right into the ES scenarios, and we will start cooking here. Now, again, I'm going to lean to the short side today. Okay, so we have supply here. We are in supply right now. Okay, but we're in the middle of kind of the overnight range. So what I would like to see, okay, is I'm going to have a bearish bias below 64.70 to 64.80. Stay below it, I'm going to have probably a bearish bias. So a bunch of things can happen here. We can fill the gap, hit this supply, and then start the roll. Take out the overnight lows, and you could possibly just go, uh-oh, 6,400. And there's a bunch of times to do this. You can hit this supply, take out the overnight highs. Same thing, go down. You can all. That's what I'm saying. This big wall ahead of us, the 70s to the 80s. As long as the market can hit it, and I would like this to happen very quickly. Try to get into this range and reject, retest. Yep, you're going to wind up taking out these overnight lows. And I think the market will not be able to withstand this, and people will be like, uh-oh, go back to 6,400. Okay, now if we sit inside here for a while, boy, that's going to be boring. Because you could chop. That's Chop City, Chop Suey, whatever you want to call it. In between 70 and 80, I would say that is a dead zone. That is something I don't want to be involved in. That is probably, if it's 11:30 or noon and we're sitting in there, probably I'm done for the month. Okay? That's all I care about. All right? Now, long side. Long side. I said I'm going to have a bearish bias below that 70 to 80 range. Right? Well, it doesn't mean you can't get a long in. Okay? I'm not saying I'm all about longs right now, but I'm going to give you a scenario that I would like to see. Okay? Now, what I would want to see? Well, let's come down here, take out the singles. Right? I think this could possibly be a bear trap. Bloop, higher low, and maybe we just can make it back to that range. And then it's like, okay, we're waiting for Nvidia's earnings. Right? I need to see this though. If I don't, and the internals can't be weak, because that, the market's anticipating Nvidia's earnings. Nobody knows what the market's going to do with them. But do you want to hold the bag? I don't know. Okay? I don't know. That's honestly all I'm interested in. Below, down here, the market's going to be weak. Moving on to the NASDAQ. Moving on to the NASDAQ. Let's look at that little NASDAQ. Okay. Now, we are inside yesterday's range. So remember, structurally stronger in the immediate term. Okay. Let's look at, you got a double distribution in the profile here. Double distribution. Alrighty. We have our 2, 3, 5, 5 zeros. That is it's going to be the most traded price of this week, most likely today when the market opens. Okay. We have Also, 232 is the most traded price of the month down here. You can see the distributions, right? You can see the distributions. Kind of a interesting looking profile here. Okay, interesting profile. Price is right here. You have yesterday's, so there's no gap fill. Okay, there's no gap fill. So you do have a little demand zone right here. Okay, so I'm going to mark off some levels here. We're going to do this supply with the 23550s. Remember, over 2355, 23550, you got to be bullish. You got to be bullish, okay? Is it going to be easy to take it out? No. So these 23616s right here, kind of yesterday's highs lines up with the previous overnight highs. That is a confluence high. Okay, that is a confluence high. Okay, I'm going to mark off this. This is your overnight lows with this demand zone. Okay, with this demand zone. Now, the most traded price of yesterday happened to be 23550. Okay, like I said, underneath that, you got to have a little bearish bias. Right? You got to have a little bearish bias. So, now, you have to look at it here. Market did come down, but found buyers here. In single prints. We were able to cut into these single prints yesterday. Okay. Remember, so far, you find support in single prints is bullish. Remember? Okay, so you're almost 100% net short, but that don't matter really because the price action is all the way up here now. So that's not much of an edge. All right. So pretty easy here. Pretty easy here to figure out some scenarios. Okay, let's look at it. And of course, I'm going to have the bearish bias. Now, price is right here. You're around the most traded price of the overnight. That's around 23452s. This is your anchor VWAP for the month. Right here, it's flat. Flat as could be. That just tells you a lot too. You know, that's telling you for the month we're just flat. Okay, even though all this crap has happened. Now, let's look at this. Okay, you do have a little bit of a poor structure here at the top of this session. So, if I'm a bear, fine. Let's break those overnight highs. There's the week-to-date VWAP up here, and there's your 23550s. If you fail, retest, boom. I'm going to take some profits there at the overnight VPOCs, and then I'm going to take some profits there at 23371s if you take this out and break the single prints. At this point, the market is probably weak, and you're going to dump probably to 232. Okay, now I did a straight line. Nothing moves in straight lines. So that is one thing I would like to see. Now, if internals aren't that weak or are like in parity, we move up here. Oh boy, I like that. I like that. If I'm not seeing some strength anywhere, I like it. Okay, I really like it. Now, you could also get something like this. Boop. Just takes out the overnight highs, never reaches that. But I'd like the confirmation of the failure because people are probably going to take profits there and then see if we can go roll. Okay, that's what I want to see. Now, of course, if we just come in here and start the rip, well, then I got to wait and see if the market just finds acceptance here. If it does, maybe there's a brief pullback that I could short. Okay, that's all for that. Now, long side. And like I said, I'm not a fan of the long side. But if the market presents something, remember, how I've been trading recently is very low risk for a high reward. So I don't need to have a monster trade to get my money. Okay, my risk to reward, I have made it at least a 3-to-1 every time I trade now. So I don't need, if I have a 2 or 3 point risk, I don't need much. Okay, so that's the advantage of doing that. Now, if this market push up into this supply, come down into this demand, okay, it's a little demand. I don't expect much from it, but maybe it holds. And then we can at least go up to the 550s. Okay. Now a little more of a bear trap here. If we did come down, break those overnight highs, hit the end of the single prints, bounce higher lows, maybe we can make a move as well. Waiting for Nvidia tomorrow. This is more of a de-risk long. More of a de-risk long, and it is the NASDAQ. Okay. Now, yes, you're knowing I'm saying this 23550 is the bull bear line. Now, if the market just ripped and started to hold here, maybe we do take out the 231616s. I'm not a fan as that as much. Okay, just because there's a big supply zone here, I'd have to see. That's more of a live decision. I don't know how the market, what's driving the markets right now. I just don't know. Okay, I just don't know. But that is my analysis, folks, for today. Now, if you enjoyed that, please smash the like button. That would be much appreciated. Okay, much appreciated. Slam it, smash it. Do whatever you want with it. That would be much appreciated. Now, of course, I'd love you to join me every morning. Let me be your cup of coffee, your cup of joe, your tea, your water. You're driving in your car. You're in the shower. Just listen. Let me be your podcast. I'm going to tell you what's going on in the markets. I'm going to tell you about Trump firing the Fed cook. I'm going to tell you about the yield curve we went over earlier this morning. Okay? I'm going to give you the long and short trade scenarios that I just gave you and gave you the levels to gauge sentiment on for day trades. I think those are golden nuggets. All right? I think those are golden nuggets. I would love to have a me when I started. Okay? Now, that's what I provide to you here. If you want more in depth, and I would think you would, you're going to join my Discord, Confluence Trading. Let me be your indicator. Let me be your indicator. I will give you commentary on what I'm seeing. And I will never steer you wrong, because why? I'm using market internals. Market internals tell me what the market's capable of in that moment. They don't lie. I've seen many of people look at price action, right? Market selling off, making new lows. They think, oh my God, the market's going to drop to this. I will say, hey, listen, the market is not really weak. Or the market's pushing up. And I'm like, hey, caution. This market does not have the internals to move higher. And next thing you know, we're pulling back. That is like the edge that I bring. Okay? The other edge I bring is, hey, there is no trade there. Even though the market might move up, I might call something out in my channel and go, we should probably move higher from here, but it might not be a trade setup for me. Sometimes that's frustrating. Like, I can call it and people will be like, you just called that. I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's not really like a setup. Right? So everybody should have an edge two ways, like a blade. Okay? Two ways. Right? Is the edge not to do anything, and the edge know when to do something. Because that's just as important. When I started, I've had many mentors, okay? And I remember specifically, this might have been my third mentor. His name is Josh Schuler. He is from Trade with Profile. He is where I got the most share prices from, right? I give all the credit to him for that, okay? Now, when we would be live every day in a room with him, he would say to me, hey, when the market is over its expected move for the week, I don't long. And I'm like, what? Now, I'm young at that point. I haven't traded much that long at this point. And I'm like, I don't get it. I just made money on a long, and you're not going to go long? He's like, yeah, it's just 70% of the time that the move is in and all this stuff, right? And I was just like, that is dumb. Why would you limit yourself like that? That was my rookie mindset. And he had all these other rules. Hey, I don't do this in this environment. And I'm like, what? No, know what that is? That was the guy with 20-something years experience knowing the probabilities. And that's what I really hone myself on now is I've seen every movie already in this market. I know when a day's profile looks like this, when the internals look like this, what generally happens next. right? What generally happens. So you have to lean on that. They will be outliers. But this is the game where you want to put your money where probabilities are. Not what your gut is, not what a big candle, a big green or a red candle makes you feel. Now I'm speaking from experience. I've felt those emotions. Big green, big red, big green. Oh my God, I missed a move. Let's say I'm on vacation and I see a market sold off that day. All I would think about is, man, I could have made so much money today. Big green candle. Oh my God, I would have made so much money today. That is an amateur mindset. And I've had it. Price action still to this day sometimes can make me feel a little bit, but the market internals ground me. I'm like, or the profile, what I'm seeing is like, yeah, that happened, but something really needs to change in order for me to really be convinced by that. And more times than not, what I know, my probabilities are right. Just because they're probabilities, right? So, sorry for that little soliloquy. I just wanted to share that. Anyway, this is my last time this week with you guys until next Tuesday. So, I'm going to leave you with that. Now, remember, no trade is a trade. And I know this better than anybody. Last week, I took 2 trades. Two. Two. This week, I've taken 0. Yesterday, I probably could have took that 1 trade. And then the other one, when I brought my car, I probably had the short there. But what are you going to do? It's better than losing money, right? I know I'm still seeing the markets correctly. So hopefully I got a trade today. Maybe I don't. I'm coming more at peace with just going, I want that market to come to this area where it's going to come to me. I didn't always do that. Now I've said I would do it for a little bit, a day here, a day there, a week here, a week there, but this is every day. I'm like, oh, I'll put my limit order there, and it's got to slam into it, and that's where my risk to reward is accurate. My target is attainable. That's the way. Guess what? It's getting boring. And the boring is a part where you know you're starting to get some success when this is boring. It's not supposed to be exciting. Now, don't get me wrong. It could feel good to have a nice win. It doesn't feel great to lose. But that's the mindset you need to have. Become numb. Right? Jack Schwager, I'll leave you with this. The market wizard said the one thing that he noticed with all the traders is they all knew how to lose. And you couldn't tell when they took a loss or a win. So I'll leave you with that. Everybody have a great rest of the trading week. Great rest of the trading week. Okay? NVIDIA earnings, core PCEs coming out. Enjoy the rest of the week. I don't know how it's going to be because I'm not going to be trading. But everybody have a great Labor Day weekend. And I'll see everybody back on Tuesday. If you want to get some more snippets with me, come to my Discord today. Okay? And if you want me live, just say, hey, let's go live. We got some questions, right? Right? I might still go live. I'm not sure. All right? But if enough people come in and join or whatever and say, hey, you mind going live? I'll answer your questions. No problem. All right, everybody? Take it easy.